Imagine if on day one, let's say in 2021, President Joe Biden said, this is Mark Cuban and he's going to help me delete ICE. Just rip the agency out completely. No more immigration customs enforcement. Everyone, certainly Republicans, would instantly know that was flatly illegal. They would raise hell about it. Well, the same thing's true for what is happening at, right now, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the newly confirmed Project 2025 architect Russ Vought are asserting essentially unfettered executive power to do whatever they want in violation of the law and U.S. Constitution and just shut the Bureau down. They are doing it, one should add, while they control the whole government. If they want to get rid of USAID or the CFPB or massively slash the spending on cancer and Alzheimer's research, which they seem intent on, they can try to pass a law and get it done. They are not doing any of that. Faiz Shakir is a senior advisor to Senator Bernie Sanders, as well as the founder and executive director of More Perfect Union. David Jolly is a former Republican congressman of Florida, and they both join me now. Faiz, let me start with you. You think about these sort of constitutional crises or standoff between the branches when you've got Congress controlled by one party, the president by the other, and you're coming towards a shutdown or a debt ceiling situation. What is so striking about this situation? They have a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court. They have the Senate, the House, and the White House, and yet are still attempting to essentially unilaterally and unlawfully do whatever they want to the government.
When you think about their psychology, which we don't want to paint ourselves too much about this, they feel like they have this noble soul, Chris, that they have infinite wisdom. They live way above the masses. They know more than you do. And when you put them in charge, the ruling elites, they can and should be allowed to do whatever the hell they want. Yeah. Government should operate at their whims, not for the greatest good, for the greatest number. So they don't really much care to discover what the CFPB does for regular working people. In fact, that's the point. The fact that a lot of these government agencies work at the behest of people is a problem to them, because what they want government to function as is to serve my own interests, my own ideology. And it really is undermining of the notion of government itself, that it doesn't operate for profit, it operates for people. And that's really the notion that is under attack right now from this ruling class.
Yeah, I mean, just as an example of what CFPB does, one of the agency's biggest recent wins over the industry has been limiting overdraft or insufficient funds fees. Yeah. The agency pushed culminating in a final rule in December that would have capped overdraft fees at large banks to $5, not the $25, $30 sometimes. Its fate is now uncertain. So maybe if they shut it down, you get overdraft fees. But David, you've been in Republican politics long enough to know Republicans have hated this agency from the time it was part of Dodd-Frank and got passed, right? And what to me this is it's a little like post-election 2020, where he tried to do it in the courts, and when that didn't work, you got the mob. It's like, people have tried to shut this down, it didn't work, so now we're just going to essentially shut it down by ourselves.
Donald Trump just handed Democrats a major issue for the 2026 campaign, and for right now. You're right, Republicans challenged CFPB over constitutional grounds. It's funded through revenue from the Federal Reserve, and they said that's unconstitutional. The Supreme Court last year said, no, Republicans, you're wrong. It's constitutional. Here's the issue. The constitutional crisis, I believe we are in one, is not just because of the malfeasance of the president. It's because of the cooperation of the Congress. We've seen malfeasance before, right? Malfeasance unchecked is what creates a constitutional crisis. So if it's USAID, if it's another issue, if it's civil servants, those are real policy issues, but the lawlessness creates a constitutional crisis. Here, they've handed Democrats an issue, which is consumer protection. Now you have the billionaires versus the consumers, the corporations versus the consumers. And I really believe emerging this cycle, we will enter a cycle where money in politics now matters again, and the corruption of the billionaires matters.
Well, let me follow up with you in 1 second. When you talk about the sort of abdication in Congress, I mean, Susan Collins is the chief appropriator in the Senate. Yeah, watches this NIH freeze happen. She freaks out and she says, well, I've talked to RFK Jr. about it. It's like, you chair the Senate Appropriation Committee. Yeah. Mike Johnson today said, I talked to J.D. Vance, and I think the executive gets to control funding.
Sometimes I worry about repeating myself. I'm on day 5 of saying the Republican Congress has collapsed. It has collapsed. The constitutional crisis is not just because of the malfeasance of Donald Trump. It's because of the likes of Susan Collins, of Mike Johnson, of Mitch McConnell, of Steve Scalise. The Republican Congress has collapsed. And that creates the crisis. This is not a crisis if Donald Trump is held accountable by the Congress.
And part of the reason for the crisis, Faz, when Elon Musk was doing, he has a very weird physiology today. He was very, very, very twitchy. I have no idea what's going on with him, but just seemed sort of irritable, and just noting
Snorting
that.
Adderall
When he was
like
giving his
Trump.
monologue on democracy and mandates, he neglected to say that those same voters sent the thinnest ruling majority in decades. And part of the kind of autocratic push here is the other side of the coin, that they don't have the votes to get rid of USAID. They don't have the votes to get rid of CFPB. They don't have the votes to cut billions of dollars out of cancer and Alzheimer's funding. They have the votes to do none of it. If they had the votes, they would be doing it, but they don't.
And one of the, yes, and what I want all of us to urge, Democrats across the country to think about is there's working class people right there who are suffering. There's names and faces to park service rangers, to medical researchers, to farmers who are getting screwed out of, they put solar installations on their farms and now the government's not going to pay them. There's people administering, Head Start and Meals on Wheels. These are wonderful, beautiful Americans who really are in service of others beyond themselves. They're amazing people, and we, the Democratic Party, have to be their champions. And if we do that right, we not only build a working class party, but you create the political pressure up from the ground up that I think it makes it unsustainable. I don't think you've maintained the votes, as you were just mentioning, in the Congress to do some of the things they want to do, because the revolt will be very strong and powerful.
Yeah, I mean, $2 billion of purchases from U.S. farmers in that USAID budget, which is they're going to try to get rid of. We'll see if it works. Shakira, David Jolly, thank you very much. Thank you. Still ahead, new evidence that Trump's pick for FBI director may have already lied to Congress. That's right, the latest problems for Kash Patel. Next.